This is a mentor text for 6th grade writing. We are in our personal narrative unit. The title of this article is, it's by Hannell. It's The Remains of the Day. In 2001, Mary Lee Hannell was the executive advisor to the chief administrative officer of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which owned the World Trade Center. She worked on the 67th floor. In 1993, Hannell had just stepped out of the building for lunch when a terrorist bomb exploded in the World Trade Center parking lot. Mary Lee Hannell. I remember it being a beautiful, crisp day. I got to work early and had just gotten off the elevator and walked into my office. I heard a gigantic boom, one which moved the building significantly. I was thrown to one side. I remember hearing the building kind of creaking, so I came out of my office and asked if anyone had any idea what that was. A woman who was around the corner from me started screaming, because she was on the side of the building where she actually saw the plane hit the building. She was very worked up and started running around screaming, "A plane has hit the building!" So I gathered some people. I walked to my boss's office, and when I got there, I picked up the phone and dialed my husband's number. I said, "A plane has hit the building." He said, "How do you know?" I said, "One of the women here saw it. A plane has hit the building." He said, "Just go down the stairs. Don't wait. Just go down the stairs. We'll meet outside." Then I said to my boss, "There's smoke in the corridor. I think we need to go now." He said, "Yes, let's just go." We tried to calm this one woman down because she was really hysterical, but we very clearly made a decision. We need to leave now. There was another gentleman on the floor who was a retired policeman, and he said, "Let's take a quick look to make sure everyone's out of their offices." So we did that and got everybody together. Went out into the corridor and opened the door and held it open and made sure that everybody moved through. We waited for two women who went back to get their handbags, and if I've learned anything, it's never go back to get anything, because you never know how much time you have. And I started downstairs. There was no public address announcement. There was nothing to say, "Go." There was nothing to say, "Stay." There were no fire alarms going off. We got on the stairs. No smoke, but a very chemically smell, a very, very intense smell that caught you in your throat. I stayed with this policeman and with one of the staff people who works for me. People were very orderly walking down the stairs, but there were people who were afraid. Some had walked down the stairs in the 1993 bombing. Some were just afraid. So what we were doing is keeping up a dialogue, joking around, laughing, reassuring people. There was a woman with us who had asthma. The more upset she got, the harder it got for her to breathe. Then there was this gentleman who had been burned. So a couple of us kept up a running dialogue with people to try and keep people calm. We kept saying, "Look, we're at the 45th floor. We're making great progress." Whatever it took to make people keep moving. We'd also say, "Don't worry, we have a lot of time. We have as much time as it takes, because if it takes 8 hours to get out of the building, it takes us 8 hours to get out of the building." There was never, ever, for one moment, a thought that the building was going to collapse ever. Their stairway was actually very crowded, but we were moving. I can't believe it would have been as orderly or as calm had people really thought that there was a problem. We didn't know while we were in the building that the second tower had been hit, because you couldn't feel it or hear it in the stairwell. My husband knew because he looked at his pager as he was going down the stairs, and he had something from one of the news services that feeds the headlines. Then he knew it was a terrorist attack as he was going down the stairs. But I did not. Oddly enough, and what he yells at me all the time about, is that he ended up getting out of the building ahead of me, even though he was above me, because I waited for a couple of people to go back and get some things. So we were counting down, having these conversations. Everything is going fairly smoothly, until we hit about the 30s. There was a very elderly woman who worked for the Port Authority in our records area. She has a tremendous amount of difficulty walking, and she takes one stair at a time. So everything started to back up. About the 30th floor, we start to encounter smoke, so it's a little harder to breathe. People who are already very tentative are even more tentative now. Some people started to cry. Some people started to worry. We're still moving. The lights are on. It's fine. Don't worry. We're already on 30. We're more than halfway down. We're going to be fine. People are taking handkerchiefs out, taking off jackets and giving them to other people so you could put something in front of your mouth. One of the jokes we had, a funny joke, was one of the women had her gym bag with her. She had not yet gone to the gym, so she had a pair of shorts. She had a t-shirt, she had socks, she had sports bra. She handed all of her clothing to people, including the sports bra, which was clean, she assured us, so people could put them over their mouths so that you had something over your mouth so you could breathe. The woman, who was asthmatic, started to panic and started to breathe even more heavily. So as we were going down the stairs, we would pass the door. We would open it where we could. If there was fresh air, we'd say to her, "Come over and breathe. Just breathe the air. Close your eyes, breathe, don't look." Because some of the floors had fire alarms going off. Some had some kind of liquid. I don't know if it was jet fuel or if it was elevator hydraulic liquid. But breathe. You're going to be fine. On floor 21, we passed a man who was in a wheelchair, a very heavy wheelchair. He had at least one person with him, and he was just sitting there. He wasn't moving. He was one of the people we passed that did not make it out of the building, because he wouldn't let people carry him down. He wanted to take his chair with him. He had some other medical issue, and that chair helped him with, and he was worried. So his friend stayed with him, and neither of them made it out of the building. Did it bother you that you were going past him? Merrily Hannell. Yes, it did, but there didn't seem to be anything I could do. There wasn't anything I could reasonably do. So, are you with anyone you know at this point? I'm with a woman named Ellen Dalton, who works for me, and I'm with a couple of other Port Authority people that I know. Was it crowded in these stairways? Yes. Once you got to 27, it was crowded enough that there were periods of time when you were no longer moving. We were stopped and you were just waiting. Then, as you start to hit these areas where we're waiting, people start to get a little antsy. There starts to be some yelling. We've got to move, we got to move, we got to get out of here, from above us. People started to say, just keep moving, don't stop, don't stop. So I started to yell up the stairs, we've got to wait, don't keep coming, just stop where you are. There are people ahead of us, but we're moving, so just stay where you are and take a rest. As long as we're stopped, take a rest, because these stairs were very hot. So by this time, after about an hour, it's very hot. You're sweaty, your clothes are clinging to you. Now there's smoke. It's a little harder to breathe. There are women who are going down the stairs in bare feet because they had high heels on and their feet hurt so badly that they took their shoes off and held them in their hands. There's water pouring down the stairs. A little at first trickles, and as you go down further, more water, more and more water. So you're starting to say to people, hold onto the railing, it's slippery, be careful. Then at about 22, you start to see firemen and paramedics. Everyone, as far as I could hear, says the same thing to them, which is, there's a man in a wheelchair on 27. The paramedics say, yes, we know, we're going to get him. Everyone moved to the right so that the firemen and paramedics can come up the stairs. But by this time, the firemen in particular are huffing and puffing because of equipment on. The stairs are hot, they're congested there, so they're huffing and puffing, but they're going. So I feel a little better about the man in the wheelchair because I was convinced that now that the firemen knew where he was and the paramedics that they could help. The next thing I remember is we get to the very last staircase and there's an open door. We step out on what's called the mezzanine. The mezzanine overlooks the plaza, the World Trade Center. It looks like a movie set. It was covered in debris. There were fires. The windows had blood on them. There were some things that I was staring at. I stared and I stared and I stared until I realized it was a body, unrecognizable. It looked like a rag doll that someone had thrown. But my first reaction was, it's a movie set. It's not real. It's a movie set. We worked our way around the mezzanine, past all of this. There were body parts everywhere and piles of burning debris. I remember thinking, I don't understand why there are so many bodies. I didn't know the second tower had been hit. I didn't know any of this. So the first reaction was, it's not real. Then it's realizing what you're looking at. I don't understand what happened, but I know we're in trouble and we've got to get out of here. I came across the mezzanine, and standing there was our chief operations officer. There was an escalator that went down. The escalator was off. He was encouraging people to move down the escalator, just trying to get people to move as quickly as possible down the escalator. We walked down the escalator, and at the bottom of the escalator, the last couple of steps were completely filled with water. The sprinklers were going off. There was a glass all over the floor, and there was water coming down. There were people standing there telling you where to go. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. We're going to stop there.